you of the effort and the ability to kind of withstand some runs from Sam and just hang in the game and even get a lead late.
Yeah, I think I was proud of the fact we gave ourselves a chance to win. But we talked about it a lot. I kind of felt it all week that maybe we weren't quite. We just didn't have our mojo all week. Sometimes you can just feel that. And so I was really nervous going into the game, and I think that first half proved that I was right. But I was proud that they came out in the second half. They gave themselves a chance to win. We've been good all year when our back is against the wall. I think you can go back to 5 or 6 games this year where we've done a double-digit lead, and we've come back and either won or it turned into a one-possession game, and had a chance to win. What we've got to figure out is how do we do when our back's not against the wall? Like how do we protect the lead? Don't play safe, and I've talked about that some. And I think we did play safe a little bit against Sam. As crazy as that sounds, as wild and as great as we were to come back into that game, I think once we got that lead, it was almost like, okay, hold on. You know what I mean? Let's not lose this, and we can't have that mentality. We've got to play to win always. That same, and I thought we did a good job of that. During that little win streak we had of just playing to win nonstop, whether we had a lead, whether we didn't have a lead, and there's no reason to play it safe. You've got to play ACU basketball, man, all the way up until the final buzzer.
Kind of just building off that, you've said you want them on offense to just kind of play freely, as you were saying, and maybe take some shots that they wouldn't have normally. You said they did that a little bit in the Sam game, but just as a whole, the progression of the season, do you sense that is kind of getting to where you need it to be heading into the postseason?
I do. I'm happy with where we're at. I mean, we've won 6 out of our last 7. So like there's a bunch of different ways to look at it. I crushed myself, for a couple days over the way that Sam game finished. I was not on top of my game. So let's put that out there. But but I think at the end of the day, you got to look back and say, okay, our goal has been to have a great season. And we have had a great season up to this point. And we've won 6 out of our last 7, and we got 4 more opportunities here to finish it the right way. And so hopefully we can finish it. And then if we can do that, then I think we're one of the most dangerous teams going into Vegas.
You've been outspoken about how good your leadership is. We see it with a lot of the veterans in your team. After a game like that, you've had some rough patches this year, but after a game like that stings on the road late in the year, what was the feeling like? And then heading into this week, do you think there's some mojo back? What has the response been like?
Yeah, I think, they were great. I mean, the halftime was not our typical halftime. We didn't make a whole lot of adjustments at halftime the other night. We maybe made some mental adjustments and some things like that. But and then we talked after the game, and we were honest with each other. That's one of those games you could go back and you could dissect, and you could talk about some of the decisions I made. You could talk about some of the decisions our players made, and so we just sat down and said, let's talk through them now. Let's not wait. And so we sat there for about 10, 15 minutes and talked. About look, we could point our finger at this, we could point our finger at that, but let's put it all collectively. And the leadership in that locker room was great. They took all the credit. They privately. You know what I mean? I do take credit for the way that game finished, and I do think we should have won that game if I would have done some things differently. But they made me feel better, and so and then we've had a couple conversations since, and now yesterday we put it to bed, and we focus. Today's the day we start focusing on Lamar, and so I do like where we're at. I trust our team. I've never felt like, okay, this thing, even when we kind of lost that 11 game, we were on that long win streak early, I always felt like we were going to get back because of the guys that I have in that locker room. And I have no doubt that one loss in the last 7 games is not going to deter us.
On a one-game week like that, I'm sure you're excited to get back into game shape and play games. So this week, obviously Lamar at home, a team you're not going to take lightly, and then SFA, a team that's a rival. Just what do you see from this week? 2 games.
Yeah, I'm glad. I mean, it's a little weird. We had 2 back-to-back bye weeks, and so there's all kinds of stuff that you do differently during a bye week, and that usually doesn't affect you. It's usually a good thing. But I felt kind of like that second one was almost like we had too much time off, and that could have played some part of all that. But I am happy to be back into the regular flow of things for a couple weeks here before we go to Vegas. And, I'd like our mindset going into today as we lock in for Lamar. We know what kind of game we had down there in Beaumont. And it was another one where we had a big lead. I think we had a 16-point lead, and we played safe. And they were able to scrap, and they actually took a 5-point lead. And then, of course, our backwards were against the wall. Well, what did we do? We came back and we found a way to win the game. And so we're going to be ready to go. I'm sure Lamar is. There's still a lot on the line for Lamar. And so we'll probably get their best shot on Thursday.
Now, you
mentioned in a coach show just a few minutes ago about how you lost the turnover margin against Sam on Saturday. So just tell me, it was kind of an abnormal game. You don't rebound Sam and lose the turnover margin.
Yeah, we've done a great job in the last couple games, I think, of rebounding the ball, which has been a weakness of ours throughout the season. But what we didn't do a good job of was the turnover margin. It's the first time all year that we lost the turnover margin. Without looking back at it, I would imagine there might not be a game, in the last 2 years where we lost the turnover margin. And so that was frustrating to me. And that's why we lost the game. Like I said, that's one of the things we've talked about is we could point at a million different things, but if we do what we do and we win the turnover margin, we win the game. And so that's a credit to Sam. They did a good job of taking care of the basketball, and defensively they did a good job, turning us over.
So you have a chance to finish fourth, as high as fourth at the end of the season, and a chance to finish as low as seventh. What are your thoughts on the WAC standings right now? I know you want to take it one game at a time, but just talk about it.
Yeah, it's okay. We all look at the standings. We can lie and say we don't. At this time of the year, you're looking at it, and we don't talk about it in the locker room. We don't talk about it with our team, but they're looking at it too. They know what's going on, and so there's a lot on the line. But it doesn't matter if we don't win Thursday. So that's why we got to focus on the next game. But here's the deal: anybody can win any night in the WAC. We've proven that. We've seen that. I firmly believe that we can beat anybody in the WAC. But I also believe that anybody in the WAC can beat us, and that's what makes this league so good. I think we have 5 teams right now that are scratching and clawing for potentially 20 wins in the regular season. That's unbelievable in a league that doesn't play guarantee games and things like that, that you have 5 teams that potentially could get to that point. That just tells you what kind of league we play in right now. And anybody can win. That's why you want to put yourself in the best position you can going into Vegas.
How healthy is their team heading into this week? I know Corian faced some cramps on Saturday. How healthy are they?
As of right now, we're healthy, besides your normal, nicks and bruises that you get at the end of February. But, hopefully it stays that way. Corian was dealing with some cramps. We had a couple other guys that were too. He just couldn't come back to finish that game, unfortunately. But he's been fine. He's practiced yesterday. But we got, it's like always, you walk in that training room, man, you got everybody in there, So it's just February, man. We've talked about it, and I've said it the last couple of weeks, is that, it's an ugly, gloomy February. It's cold outside, and it's nasty. It's the same way with basketball, man. If you can fight through that February, that's a beautiful March. And so we've got to fight through this last couple weeks here of February so we can hopefully have a beautiful March.
And what are your thoughts on having 3 of your last 4 games at home here at the T-Center?
Yeah, good and bad. I think we're one of the best in the country on the road. And so part of me feels good to get on the bus and get on the road. But, we've got to protect home court. There's a lot. I do like the fact that going into the conference tournament, we're going to be able to kind of be at home and not travel a bunch. It gives us a chance to come to some of those normal late season nicks and bruises that I was talking about. You can kind of heal from those going into the postseason. There's a lot of teams that are going to have to go on the road and then leave from where they're at to go to Vegas and not even go home. And so we're fortunate we don't have to deal with that. But home, away, whatever, we just got to make sure we finish this thing the right way.
Thanks, Coach.
So how much has the intensity been ramping up with just 4 games left in the regular season?
Yeah, I don't think it's really changed. Honestly, I think we've done a good job, I think, of trying to focus one game at a time, and I know that when you get to this point, you can't keep them from looking at the standings. It's everywhere. Back when I first started coaching, you could. Now you can't. It's just you open up your browser, man. It's the first thing that pops up. And so, but I think we're locked in. We know that it doesn't matter if we don't win Thursday, then there go a bunch of options. You know what I mean? And so we've got to make sure we take care of business on Thursday. And I think that's where the intensity comes from. The good thing about the loss last week is that we get to now, have that intensity. We don't want to lose 2 in a row, and we want to make sure that this does not become a streak. And so that's the intensity I think we're looking at this week.
How hard has it been to wait this long between games? Following a loss.
It's been tough, man. I spent a lot of time, in a car recruiting. I've been recruiting, and so I've had a lot of time to reflect on the decisions I made and some of the things that happened in the game. But the good thing is we're able to sit down and watch some film that we don't normally get to do. We've been able to take time individually with guys. You don't usually get to do that because everything happens so fast. So having all this time, we've been able to really sit back, talk with guys individually, watch film individually. We've been able to reflect on some of the things. We didn't usually have to flush it. You just say, okay, we won or we lost. We got to flush it, move on to the next one. I didn't have to say that, man. We didn't say that until yesterday. So we've been sitting on that game since then, and I think it's important. I think it's good to hurt. I think it's good to feel bad because if you don't, then you're not going to get any better from it. You're not going to learn from it. I'm going to be a better coach because I hurt the last three or 4 days, and I was forced to go back and look at that and say why. Why did I make the decisions I made? Why did they make the decisions they made? And so I think it's a good thing. It stunk, but it's a good thing, and I think we'll be better because of it.
All right. And then how do you make sure your team is ready to go when you're playing a team that hasn't won a single conference game?
Because of the game we had down there, we very well could have lost that game. I mean, we had a player make an unbelievable play defensively, where a lot of players would have bailed out on that charge that Emmanuel Allen took down there. They would have just been afraid to foul. It's easy to blame somebody else. He got beat on the drive, and I'm safe, but he wasn't safe. He stepped in and he made a play. If he doesn't make that play, we lose, probably. And so I think knowing that we have not had a run-out win on anybody. I mean, we had a couple double-digit wins, but we pulled away late. So I don't think our guys are sitting here thinking, we should beat anybody. We know that, what you said is true, but they very well could have had one when we were down in Beaumont. And so we got to make sure that doesn't happen. We've got to protect home court, and we know what's on the line. We're in the playoffs now, in my opinion. So let's try to win as many as we can, but we can't go 4-0 in the next 4 if we don't win on Thursday. So we've got to focus on that one.
And last one for you. What does the team need to play their best basketball? What does the team need to play their best game?
We just got to stay focused, man. We have a lot of maturity in that locker room, and we can't get bored. And we have a lot of guys that have been around a long time, longer than players have ever been around. And so we can't get bored. We have to stay locked in on the task at hand. We've got to lock into film, just like we always do. We can't start thinking ahead. If we start thinking about Vegas now, then we're going to put ourselves in a bad position in Vegas. And we've got to win Thursday, or it doesn't matter. And then if we take care of business Thursday, we got to win Saturday, or it doesn't matter. And so we've got to go out there and prove that we can beat anybody in this league. And I think this is a great opportunity with these next 4 games.
I have one last quick one
Sure.
for you. So your postseason doesn't start for a little while, but the 2 other Abilene colleges, HSU and McMurray, start this week. They're playing each other. Do you have a rooting interest, a betting favorite there?
I can't have a rooting interest, man. Both those guys are friends of mine. I have a ton of respect for both of them, man. And, we've leaned on each other, from time to time. And obviously we've tried to bring them in here, both of them, and play them. And it's exciting. I think it's good for the city of Abilene, man. But I'm going to be paying close attention because I do have a lot of respect for both of them. And I'm excited to kind of see how it plays out.